all I could see was like a dark void, like shadow. And I thought, there should be a face. Where I'm looking at, there should be a face.
A seemingly normal hiking encounter turns into a life threatening experience. My guest today brings us yet another experience from the Great Smoky Mountain National Park that turned into a paranormal nightmare. Have you had a similar experience to this in the Smoky Mountains? If so, leave your comment below. Set the story up for us and tell us how all of this really began.
Well, I was up at Kauai, which is formerly Kleeman's Dome. I was hiking the Appalachian Trail for a particular reason. Um, so I was hiking. My goal was to hike to Double Spring Shelter and check out the area, which is about 2.5 miles from Kauai. And before the trail, I think I got maybe a quarter of a mile in, and I was having these feelings, uncomfortable feeling, like I needed to say something before going any further. So I stopped at this opening where I could see the mountains from afar, and I said a prayer for protection. It was a protection prayer, and asking for protection along the way, especially for the reason that I was hiking it. And I think I was about a mile in, and I just got that feeling that I needed to turn around. That should I go any further? Should I not? I was like, well, I got this far, so I'm just going to keep going. So I kept going. And the more I went, the more uneasy I got. That gut feeling like something's not right. You feel watched. You can feel it. And can't really explain the feeling. It's just like something's just not right. So I didn't want to run into anybody. I wanted to be the only one out there. So I think, about 2 miles in, almost 2 miles roughly, and I seen this man from a distance. And I just stopped dead in my tracks. And he was standing there in this opening, which was the only opening on the trail that was that far in. And you could see those beams of light coming down in that area specifically. He was fidgeting with his jacket, but it didn't look like there was anything to fidget with. It almost looked set up. I noticed that I couldn't see a face because his hat was down a bit. And then I noticed all his skin was covered, everything. And this is September. This is mid-September. It was hot. Like I was sweating. And there was no reason for someone to be that overdressed. And I thought that was kind of odd. He was wearing a lot of blue. There was a lot of blue in his clothing. And he had gloves on. He had every inch covered. And I was like, oh man, I'm just going to turn around. I'm not going to go any further. But I ended up, thinking I came this far. What could happen? So I thought, is this guy going to kill me? Because he looked really sketchy. He had everything covered. Nothing was showing. And then I still couldn't see a face. The sun was beaming right on him and I couldn't see anything. So he pulls his hat down like this. Just kept pulling it. He would not let me see him. He didn't want me to see him for some reason. So I was like, okay, I came this far. I got to go. I came out here. I got to do what I came out here to do. So I start walking towards him. The closer I got, the more he pulled his hat down. And I seen directly where a face should be. There was nothing. I couldn't see anything. All I could see was like a dark void, like shadow. And I thought, there should be a face. Where I'm looking at, there should be a face. but all I could see was like a dark void, which kind of goes with him trying to cover everything up to be completely covered. And the way he was pulling his hat down, it was just unbelievable. And so then as I got closer to him, I noticed that his hat looked identical to a hat that I have at home, which is when I go fossil hunting on islands. And this is the hat that he was wearing. Has a little bit of purple in it. Yeah, it was identical. And I thought that to be very strange that he's wearing a hat exactly like mine. What are the odds, And yeah. And so as I got right up on him, he waited until I was right up on him almost before he scooted over. He finally scooted over to the left. And I looked again. No, I could not see a face. Nothing. And he pulls his hat down again. And he just kept doing that. And even though this all took place so fast, it seemed like it stretched. It seemed like it took forever to get this situation over with for me to pass him. But as he moved over, he pulled his hat down again. And then he pulls it partly up. He looks right at me and says, "God bless." And the way he said it, it was different. And in his eyes, I'll never forget his eyes. They were huge, they were bright white, but they were dark in the center. But they were something you can't forget. It was almost as if he knew me. It was like he knew me. He's watching me. He knows me somehow. That's what I got from it. And he was looking at me like he was looking through my soul. And the fact that he said, "God bless," I said a protection prayer before I got any further on this trail before seeing him. And I had those uneasy feelings and that pressure in your chest, and that gut feeling. So then as I got past him, I just kept going. I was like, I stopped, and then I was like, where I could still see him. And I was like, maybe I should just go back. But if I go back, he's going to be behind me. So I pulled out my mace and I just headed for the double spring shelter. And I was like, if anything else, I'll hit an intersection and I will just book it, down the AT or whatever I got to do. And as I kept going towards the shelter, I was just kind of overthinking everything that I just seen, everything I just experienced. And I was like making excuses for it, basically, just so I could feel safe. So I headed to the shelter. He never did come back. He never followed me. I went down to the shelter, checked it out, did what I needed to do, and I came back. And once I start going back, I was overthinking again, going over everything I had just seen. He was fully covered up. He's got every inch of his skin covered. He's in the middle of a hot September day. Those eyes, what he said compared to my prayer, the dark void shadow for a face, what was that? I kept thinking excuses. Well, maybe it was the way the sun was shining on him. But when I got closer to him, I still couldn't. So how do I explain that? It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. There was something to it. There was something to all this that almost like a message of some sort. So I was thinking, well, maybe this is some sort of omen, or maybe he was the protection that I prayed for. I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to think. So I made excuses for everything just to get out of there, and get back to my car safely. And then once I got almost out of the trail, probably a half a mile, I started having these symptoms almost immediately, where I was my right ribs started hurting really bad. Not like a normal hike. When you go hiking, you're going to have a little body ache here and there. This It was something different. I knew it was getting bad, and oddly enough, a few days later, I ended up in the hospital
Mm.
with a deadly illness that almost killed me. So I ended up having several things wrong with me. I had to have surgery, so I had to be admitted into the hospital, and they had to take out a lot of infection. They took out an air pocket, a small mass, everything, and all this just kind of happened, and all the symptoms started right after I seen him on my way back from the shelter.
Wow.
So yeah, and
Mm.
I thought that was just so weird. What are the odds of that? That I'm gonna after I experienced something like that, I come down with a deadly illness, and I made it to the hospital just in time. They said that if I wouldn't have came when I did, it wouldn't have been but 48 hours, and I would have died.
Mm.
So
Did you notice at the time that you were coming up on this guy? Was there a change in the temperature? Was there a change in the way things felt, physically felt around him?
I wouldn't say a change in the temperature. It was pretty warm. Like I was sweating. I was hiking pretty fast, like I normally do. But he was just so overly dressed, almost looked set up, and like a normal hiker does not do this. They don't they don't overdress on a hot day like that. They're not going to have gloves on where you can't see an inch of their skin. He was hiding everything on. He was hiding from something. He did not want me to see him. And considering the fact that I couldn't see a face, kind of sums that up.
Like, you know, usually people when they're that covered, like, was he wearing like a jacket? Was he wearing like what was he wearing to be covered up?
He was not dressed like a normal hiker. His pants had blue in them. I'm not sure the material, but it had blue in them, like some blue design.
Mm-hmm.
And his jacket was blue, but his hat was identical to mine, and which I find very odd. Almost he was almost like mocking me, like giving me signs to think about what I seen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm wearing a replica of your hat. I'm here for a reason. You know, that's what I got from that. You do feel watched out there. When I was hiking, you feel watched. You get this gut feeling that
Yeah.
something's off. Something's very off. And there was something very off about him. And, the fact that he was wearing a lot of blue, they say the color blue is the color of God. That is a godly color. And I said that prayer, and he said what he said, God
Mm-hmm.
bless, almost as if he heard me say that prayer, and I found that to be really odd. It all kind of went in together as if there was a purpose for all this. And like an omen. It was like an omen. That's
Wow.
that's what I get.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know what to believe. It just keeps going over and over in my head, and in his eyes, I'll never forget those eyes. It was different. It was very much different the way he looked at me. Like he was looking right through me. And I'd never seen eyes so bright and so big. And
The eyes and like the void of face and just the blackness and so forth is very similar to other reports of things out there, but that's where the similarity ends. As like the shadow people, kind of thing. That's not even a really good way of putting it, because this particular phenomena I'm talking about usually is more common in the West for some reason, like California and so forth, where people experience seeing these things that, like, they're just black figures, they're solid voids, just like a void, but they have
Yeah. Yeah.
extremely wide eyes. And, and like literally that's what they are from head to toe out there. And there's there's a theory that they may be the ancestors of people that lived there before, whatever. Who knows? Who knows really? But speaking of which, what is? Do you know, like, the lineage, like like, do you know where your family is from?
My family?
Yeah.
Oh, I do believe there is some in Italy. Um, Mostly here in Ohio that I know personally,
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, areas like that, Appalachia areas is where we're from. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I haven't really dug deep into it really. But, this man, the feeling that I got was he knows me. I just don't know how he knows me. That's that's the vibe I got from it.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. Was there, like, obviously you would have noticed if he would, like, was there no there's no telltale signs that he had actually been hiking, like his clothes didn't have like any stuff on them from like the hike or anything?
He was way too clean to be
Wow.
in the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was dirty. It was a little rainy, a little wet, but he was dry. How is he dry? And no mud. He was overly clean, like he had just got out of the shower and got dressed. And here I am with muddy shoes and mud all the way up to my knees, from splashing in it. And he's wearing clothes like that out there hiking with all this things he did. And then how's he that clean? It doesn't make
Right.
any sense.
So it didn't feel drier around the area where he was at or anything. It was still the the humidity was the same as every place
There
else.
wasn't there like it wasn't like raining. It was just it rained prior, so it was
Mm-hmm.
everything was still kind of damp. But as I passed him, the only footsteps I could see was the ones I was making. Where's his?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that far down you have dirt. The first half of the trail is all rock, pure rock.
Mm-hmm.
And but that far down you've got weeds and dirt. So only footsteps I could see were mine.
Mm-hmm. And were there any smells associated with this or anything? Did you,
I don't
like,
think I
in that
recall any.
area?
I don't think I recall any smells that I can think of. But
Okay. Wow. Now, you had mentioned something to me at one point about a dream.
yes, I did. I'm a part of this case
Mm-hmm.
that I've been helping investigate for years, quite a few years now. And I had a dream of this woman. I had a dream that I was at the Kauai parking lot up at Klingman's
Mm-hmm.
Dome. And that I was, and this gets really weird, okay? And it goes right with the story. I was in the parking lot. It was nighttime and it was really foggy. You could see the fog moving in front of the trailhead to Forney Ridge. And I seen her in a white gown and she was running all over the parking lot, just running all over the place, like confused. And then I noticed there was something off, like something wasn't quite right with her. And I noticed it almost looked like there was in my dream there was like a something demonic in her. And she stops right in front of me in the dream, looks directly at me, tilts her head to the left, and pokes me in the chest with her point finger. All my injuries that happened to me, all my symptoms, where they did the surgery, everything was in my chest area, in my lungs, in my heart. So that I found that to be very odd. It was like a movie screen slowly going towards the head of the Forney Ridge Trail, the trailhead, as if for me to go in. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, considering the fact that I was poked in the chest and that's where all my injuries were, that I found out shortly on my way back from hiking the Appalachian Trail to Double Springs Shelter. So, yeah, I kind of put two and two together and thought, well, that's kind of odd, don't you think? You know, I don't know what to think about that either, but other than the fact that that's pretty weird.
That is very weird. It is very, very weird.
It's
Um,
almost like a message, like a warning.
yeah, the fact that, because first of all, I find it very interesting that you had a physical illness as that seems to have like started right after this. It's like the
Yeah,
symptoms really just popped up out of nowhere. Um, Again, not unheard of in the Smoky Mountain National Park. Other people have experienced, strange symptoms as a result of something, or being in a place that they were very isolated. I mean, it's so funny. Up to a certain point, there are things in your experience that align with other people, but then it veers off, and
what I
that's
want to know
why.
is if somebody else has ever experienced anything like this.
Right, right, and that's ultimately what I want to know, because, like I said, as far as like, um, you know, some of the elements of the guy that you saw are similar to some stories. Some of the things about, like getting sick uh, right after a paranormal experience, and that's the only way I can describe this as a paranormal experience. Um, you know, or even during, some people get sick during it, and the fact that it happened where it happened at, like those things are all very similar, but then all of a sudden, it veers off into some really unusual territory, high strangeness wise. So I think that's very interesting. And I think it's very interesting that, in all of my years of research and investigation, I haven't heard anything quite like this. Like I said, some things are similar, some things not so much so. So it would be interesting to see, if you guys have had an experience similar to this. Uh, Tell us down in the comments about it, because yeah, there's some things that just don't fit with other stories at all. At
I've never
all.
experienced anything in the Appalachians that I thought was this, anything sinister. I've never seen anything. I've never heard anything too unusual. This is literally the first time.
Wow. And you have gone a lot
I
to the
have. I've been
mountains.
all over the Smoky Mountains. I've hiked miles into the Appalachian Trail. I've been all over Western North Carolina. I've hiked a lot of it. And I've never in my life seen or experienced anything like this in the
Wow.
mountains. In the mountains, no, not until
Wow.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, how much of that time, and this is sort of significant if you know anything about the folklore of Appalachia. Like, are you ever in the park after dark?
Yeah, I have been in the park after dark. I've
Wow.
been stuck on a trail hiking back with a flashlight or the light on my phone because I hiked, I didn't start early enough, so I didn't get back to, in time. And that does get a little uneasy, but I always keep that mind frame that what could happen other than seeing a wild animal. Um, and now I know that something can happen, you know, so yeah, I don't think I want to be in that situation again, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I do. It's not going to stop me from investigating, and it's not going to stop me from hiking. And I will be back in that area this spring. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that speaks volumes because I'm sorry. Like, my biggest fear is not the unknown, it's the no ropes. Okay. I don't do I don't do snakes. I just don't. I don't care
you know,
what
I've
kinds,
never, I ran into two snakes all the years I've been hiking. Yeah, two. It never happens often. It doesn't. One wasn't even poisonous, and one was. It was cottonmouth, and I almost stepped on it. So I did order snake chaps. And I have life alert that I can just hit a button. It'll send a rescue team or authorities straight to me. So I'm fully geared. I have hiking sticks with spears in the bottom of them, so I can fight a bear. Whatever I got to do to survive.
I think I could even handle a bear more than I can snakes. That's my biggest fear of all time
Yeah.
is snakes.
And I've
Um,
never seen a snake on the Forney Ridge Trail, like ever. You can clearly see where you're hiking. It does seem very safe. It's not a very dangerous trail. Um, it's beautiful. There are drop offs, but you got enough width on the trail, to be safe. And you don't see. I've never seen a snake out there. A very simple hike, really. It's pretty simple, as well as the Appalachian Trail Double Springs is the creepiest hike you'll ever hike. Like the woods look sinister. They do, and especially the Appalachian Section Trail that meets Forney to the second Double Springs intersection that takes you to the base of the dome. It very sinister, like it looks like something right out of a horror film.
wow.
Yeah, it
Wow.
does.
Yeah, that's yeah. I, I've I've gone from the parking lot up to, like, followed the path up to the trail, and that's as far as I've ever taken it. Like, and that was like just walking up that way. I was like, I should not be here. I just should not be here. So yeah, I get that. I definitely get that. Like I said, I have never experienced some parts of the story in interviews before, so it's very, to me, it's very much a curiosity, and the fact that, like I said, there was physical symptoms after the experience, I think is very, again, that does parallel with some experiences people have had, paranormal experiences there in the mountains, and not just paranormal experiences. Um, Other people have reported, nausea and weakness and fatigue and so forth going into certain areas, and even disorientation and that. So it's very interesting that that these sort of symptoms, um, just a wide range of symptoms, really have been reported within the mountains. And then seemingly for some people, when they left certain areas, those symptoms stopped. But in your case, they didn't, obviously. But yet, there's evidence out there to back up this experience. So that's interesting, and it's very very much something to kind of put in the hat for further investigation and research on. Well, I thank you, Morris, for coming out and explaining this experience to us, because when you first told me about it, I was like, I've got to get this on the show, and I've got to get people to hear this, especially because it happened where it happened at, which is just a hotbed, a paranormal experience.
That
it
is
literally is.
a very particular area for this to happen in. There's a lot of dark history in this area, and more than what people even know about the majority of the world, that is. Yeah, and
Right.
the fact that it happened there, I find that strange.
Right. One question I do want to ask, because people who don't know the area that well, some of them may wonder, how far do you know how far this area was from Cades Cove?
From Cades Cove, I would say it'd be a good hour drive. Yeah, because of the speed limit. You're on the complete opposite end of the Smoky Mountains. So yeah, you would have to go all the way back out and then all the way past Sugar Lands up the total different direction, about 20 miles down that way, but the speed limit's only 45, so it takes a little longer.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to give people the idea of the distance between those two, because I know some people are going to want to know, is that in correlation to that area or not, because that is also a very highly paranormal area in the Cove. So yeah, I'm glad you clarified that. And again, it brings up more questions than answers. So yes, thank you. And that wraps up this edition of a Magical Journey podcast. If you guys have had any experiences similar to this or like this, please drop it in the comments. Let me know. And I may be reaching out to you for an interview coming up. Thank you. And as always, may your journey always be magical.
I've waited for so long to see when you come back to me. Through the wars and battles that were lost, we're born again, it's you and me. The rest is history. Past lives. Past lives. Did we dance together on different floors in 1500 or 1504? We must have been lovers, we must have been something in our past lives.